It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
The samurai sword business is alive and well in Florida.
Yeah.
And this latest incident involved a 35-year-old dude named Walter Grimes. Walter is working the scene with a samurai sword.
What can you tell us about the scene?
He's got a samurai sword in it, Larry. The Daytona Beach apartment complex that normally is kind of a chill place. Well, it was a place of shock and horror. A 911 call came from this Daytona Beach apartment complex in which apparently there was an argument over an Xbox.
Oh.
That Xbox, I guess, was so desirable that Grimes got upset when the Xbox was not handed over to him by his, quote, friend, and he started swinging this samurai sword.
It's all fun and games until the sword play begins.
That's exactly it.
Do you think the 911 operator is like, samurai sword? Are you sure it's not a machete?
Press 3
This
for
is
samurai
Florida.
sword. Press 4 for machete. Apparently, the guy he hit with the samurai sword had cuts all over his face and shoulder. He was
God.
struck in the hand as well as he tried to block the sword, they say.
Oh, man.
He was screaming as he ran out of the apartment. One neighbor heard the commotion, saw the victim covered in blood. That's the person in the apartment complex who called 911. The victim taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. That is your perpetrator there that we showed you. A Florida woman, meantime, goes more old school, not a samurai sword here. She's a 28-year-old woman, and she smacked her mom in the face with grits.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a...
What?
Well, that's what she used. But the whole thing was very food-centric. She used the grits to smack her mom in the face, but the argument was about pizza. Yeah.
What?
This sounds like Mad Libs again.
It does have a Mad Lib-ish quality. I think that's
Argument
a fair
was
point.
about?
It happened the Marion County area in Florida. She was sleeping on the street in Ocala on Sunday night, but asked her mother to pick her up so that she could have a warm place to sleep. It's kind of a sad story. The next morning, I mean, the mother did come by and pick her up, so you're kind of thinking like you'd sort of have a warm spot in your heart for the mother who's given you a warm spot to sleep. But Mobley, this is her pictured, Jakayla Mobley, the 28-year-old, she told her mother that she was going to make a pizza in the oven.
I love the smile. A little
The mother
grin.
said that she's making grits, and you could have some of that or another breakfast food. We're not making pizza, is what the mother said. You know, sometimes you gotta hit them with tough love.
Right.
Well, Mobley began to argue she wanted pizza, not grits. And that caused the mother to lose it and hit her with the grits. The argument after that turned into an arrest, and apparently she has previous battery arrests, placed under arrest, and transported to the Marion County
Now, is
jail.
that a
What has got
misdemeanor?
going here is a
Because
situation.
it seems like it depends on what is being thrown in Florida, in terms of food. Is it a misdemeanor? Did they mention?
Yeah, it's, $2,500 bond. I bet it was, I don't know if it's, she has multiple battery arrests, so that may
Probably
upgrade
depends
it
on
to
the
another.
consistency of the grits.
Good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. And an under-heralded point. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That's why you're here, fabulous producer John Daly.
Fabulous producer John Daly.
I was
A
wondering.
Florida man was arrested after he was caught stealing equipment from a construction site. It happened in Lake County. Ernest Tanellis, 55. Looks like a handsome guy.
Yeah.
Intense.
He does
but
have an intense.
He's looking
air
into your
about him.
soul.
Intense, but
Yeah.
not malevolent.
No,
you know, he
no,
has
no.
a kind of
He
a
looks serious.
Soulful intensity. Yeah.
yes, soulful. Thank you. That's exactly the word I wanted.
That's more like a headshot than a mugshot. Wow.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly my point. It looks very Hollywood.
Yeah.
He was charged with larceny, grand theft, and trespassing after he broke into this construction area. Apparently, a deputy on patrol just was conducting a property check in the area, saw the dude near the intersection putting brick pavers from a pallet pile into the bed of his pickup truck. So, you know, it wasn't like he's taking one or two things. This is a pretty big, in fact, Albert, I think there's a picture of all the stuff he was taking. The construction site has a sign that says, warning, this area is a designated construction site. Anyone convicted of trespassing on this property shall be guilty of a felony.
Don't take
Meantime,
stuff.
there's the stuff.
That's what happens when you ignore the sign.
Yeah. He grabbed 30 6x6 brick pavers and 80 6x9 brick pavers. You get your 6x6 brick pavers, you get your 6x9 brick pavers, and you can do some paving, is what I'm saying.
I like that the police are doing property checks. Can you imagine that happening in California?
Yeah, that's right. How quickly would the SFPD just scream past that? Right. To be fair, there's probably some other property crime they're on their way to. So, you know. A Florida man calls 911 during his arrest. He was calling 911 to complain about the officers who were arresting him.
What?
Yes, that
Very meta.
is a balls move.
These officers are not good enough. Could you send me the nicer ones? Thank you.
How would you rate your arrest?
He was causing a scene, they say, inside of a Wawa.
Oh.
And the whole thing...
A what?
A Wawa is
like a gas station, right?
Yeah, it's a gas station kind of convenience store.
What can you tell us about the scene?
The scene was over a handicapped parking spot, Larry.
What can you tell us about the scene?
There's a 911 call complaining about the officers who were arresting him. Nicholas Taylor is his name. You see him there in...
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It might. Can you imagine if other cops showed up and said, hey, guys, come on. Nicholas Taylor, I'm saying it, not the greatest booking picture, but not the worst we've seen. 39 years old.
He might
Charged
cry. Looks like he's on the edge.
He does.
He's not going to cry.
I'm not gonna cry! I'm not gonna cry!
Now, I'll tell you what he is.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
Bingo. Yes, there's alcohol involved. Exactly right. He was booked on disorderly intoxication, which I didn't even know was a charge. I've never heard that charge.
Did you
needed
really
to be
just do
orderly.
that?
Yeah.
That's just
he
not
looks
drunk.
like
That's
I've-
drunk and belligerent.
He looks how I feel, says Casey.
I need all the drunks in one line. Come on, people.
He looks nice, says Gail Guthrie. Love the do, says Ricky O'Bear. Yeah, you ought to check him out. In the YouTube picture, you can see him in all his glory. He's Florida sweaty, says Tom. He is. Yeah, I think that's a fair take. Anyway, he called 911 when he came across. I'm sorry, let's get back to the incident. He was charged with disorderly intoxication, misuse of 911 after this incident that unfolded at this gas station. And it was on Highway 27 in the Lady Lake area. He called 911 when he spotted a car that was parked in the handicap spot without a permit. And he stormed into the store and he caused a scene, they say, about this car that was parked in the handicap spot out front without a permit.
What can you tell us about the scene?
I'm causing a scene about the scene, Larry. So he comes into the Wawa and he says, do you want to fight? And when the cops show up, he challenges them to fight.
No.
Then he stood behind the vehicle to prevent it from leaving and continued to pick a fight with law enforcement. And during this, apparently he was unsteady on his feet, said they could smell the odor of an alcohol beverage on him, the cop said. And because of his level of intoxication, cops said they told him to either find a ride or be arrested, because if he got behind the wheel of his own car, he would be arrested for DUI. He became argumentative, demanded a police sergeant respond to the scene.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Police sergeant at the scene, Larry. The responding officer said that he was, in fact, the sergeant on duty. You're talking to the sergeant. Taylor ignored him, picked up his phone, and called 911 for another non-emergency matter, he says, to complain about the officers who were dealing with him at the Wawa. God, this is so Florida, this story.
Yep.
That's white privilege, though. You know,
You're
service,
right about
hello?
that. That is so
I am
white
not happy
privilege.
with my arrest.
Let me tell you something. You guys are going to get a very poor Yelp rating after this. A Florida man imprisoned 37 years for a murder he didn't commit.
Oh, no.
He's now getting $14 million. Bravo. Robert Dubois is his name. He spent 37 years in a Florida prison for a 1983 RAPE and murder he didn't commit. Mm-hmm. Now he's set to get $14 million from the city of Tampa as compensation for all those years. Of course, it is, it doesn't bring back his life.
Kim, is that enough money, or would you turn it down? Because we know you have to get the big jackpot.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
That's right. Remember,
Like,
Kim,
is it
you don't
enough?
like the 1.5 million. You want the
14 million for 37 years of my life? No. I want $1 million for every year you locked me up.
You don't want the annuity. You want the one-time cash payment.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, he was 18 when the crime occurred, initially sentenced to death for the killing of this 19-year-old. His sentence later reduced to life. But in 2018, the Innocence Project helped him, and the prosecutors agreed to give the case another look. And DNA testing that wasn't available in the early 80s pointed to 2 other guys in the slaying. Yeah. And then Du Bois sued the city of Tampa and the police officers who investigated the case, and a forensic dentist who testified that his teeth matched a purported bite mark on the victim. So everybody was, full of it. The lawsuit was settled, and it's been officially approved. He'll get $14 million. A Florida man is arrested after leading deputies on a pursuit in a UTV, a small blue UTV.
What's the UTV?
What is there it is.
Oh, yeah.
What does UTV stand for, Albert?
Let me do a quick Google. So I'm utility.
Google it.
All right,
Task
utility.
vehicle.
It looks like a good. It looks like a great time.
Okay.
Albert,
Thank you.
It does look like a good time.
Utility
actually.
task vehicle.
Looks like a
Utility
dune buggy.
task vehicle. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was on this utility task vehicle, or UTV, and this 44-year-old Andy Joe Tipton of Monticello, at around 4:30 in the afternoon, started cruising around and came right at officers with this UTV. They signaled him to stop, but he continued to drive past them.
Oh.
Officials said that he made a U-turn and accelerated the UTV as he continued past deputies a second time. I mean, he's buzzing the tower. You're going to probably get some blowback.
Catch me. Woohoo.
He traveled eastbound on Carter Circle, almost colliding with a deputy there. And he was finally found when he stopped the UTV, and they located a firearm in the UTV, and he was then transported not by UTV, but by officers, and he was charged with possession of a weapon, resisting an officer, fleeing to elude law enforcement with lights and sirens, and he's also a convicted felon. So bravo there. A Florida man.
I was going to say they should probably screen him for a UTI.
Oh, good. I was looking for some kind of reference, and thank you for
Yeah,
that, because
Fabulous producer.
Right
John
below
Daly.
Florida man stole cash from a tip jar. Say it ain't so. Feels like that's where society is now. People are in tough spots, some of them. And they reach into that tip jar. Here it is at the Honeysuckle.
A burglary suspect walked right through this door, acting as a door dasher, waited around until the coast was clear, or so he thought, and made off with cash from the tip jar and some food items. Caught on camera, this guy in the neon green shirt sitting at a counter waiting for food. A few minutes go by and he heads over to the cooler to grab a drink. Finally, he grabs cash out of the tip jar on the counter and walks out the door.
As soon as my girls went to go to the back to get the order to pack it up to give to him, he stuck both hands in the tip jar and pulled out all their money, put it in his pocket, and left without the order.
Mandy Amos, who owns the restaurant, making the decision to post photos from Monday night's surveillance footage to Facebook, hoping someone would know something. Turns out they did.
We posted around 9 o'clock, and by 11:15, 11:30, we had such an outpour of responses that we actually had to mute the comments.
Leads led the Brevard County Sheriff's Office to identify, find, and arrest 33-year-old Titusville man Christopher McIntosh. An affidavit says he stole a chocolate bar, a Gatorade, and $131 from the tip jar.
The community was just crazy with the support and the responses, and we couldn't be more thankful. That's what the best part of it is.
You know, it's funny because you see it and it's so wrong, you know.
Yeah.
You find it. This is a weird phenomenon. You find it more galling somehow than probably some other scam, that like white collar scam that the guy could have done. And the
like
fact that it happened at
luggage and keeping it hostage, something like that.
Holding my luggage hostage. But the Honeysuckle is a place where you just are not used to seeing that.
I've never seen nothing like that in Golden Corral before.
No, at Golden Corral or Honeysuckle.
But there's so many opportunities to steal food, like especially in the city with the door dashing, because the people are so busy, they're not paying attention, and it's all sitting there.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
I love how he didn't just put one hand in the tip jar; he put both hands in the tip jar.
Yeah, well, to be fair, if you're going to go for
scooping
one,
it out.
Yeah.
Full go for both.
That's a pretty good tip jar. $131 in there. All right.
Yeah, that's not nothing. That's a good point. And finally, raccoons, speaking of stealing, raccoons in Florida have lost their way. They themselves are involved in stealing.
They need Jesus.
They have stolen, and we have actual video of it, a woman's DoorDash. They were tacos stolen by raccoons.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Yes.
If you were a raccoon and you found tacos out in the wide open.
Well, they've made it
Taco Bell.
There it is. They've made it impossible for these poor raccoons to order from DoorDash, so they have to wait for other people's orders.
Hello.
Oh, that's kind of sweet. I liked it. Thank you.
He left the shells for them. That's nice.
Albert, what is the vote in the as for the favorite in our Florida list in the chat? Oh, you got to unmute for me.
Grit, Xbox Samurai, Grit's Attacker, Calling the Cops on the Cops, and Taco Bandits are our options. Also, you could just write in your vote if I didn't include your favorite.
Yes, you can write in the live chat, and do indicate afterward what your favorite is. We don't like to pick a favorite, but the bylaws of the show do require us to pick a favorite, and we start with you, Kim, please.
Kim, how are you?
Ooh.
Are we not reviewing the stories?
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right. Let's review the stories.
Protocols and standards.
I apologize. Yeah, we have done a lot here, and let me recap
Fabulous Florida
There was a dispute over the Xbox console that led to a samurai sword. I blame you, Albert, for that. I don't understand why
Whoever is producing this thing
couldn't remember.
Has no idea what they're doing.
I blame you for my inability to remember to review. Dispute over the Xbox console that ended with a samurai sword attack. The Florida woman smacking the mom in the face with grits. The dude accused of stealing equipment from construction site for a home project. A Florida man calling 911 during his own arrest to complain about the officers arresting him. A Florida man imprisoned for 37 years for a murder he didn't commit, now getting $14 million. A Florida dude arrested for allegedly leading deputies on a UTV pursuit. A Florida dude with both hands stealing from the tip jar. And raccoons stealing the DoorDash delivery of tacos. Kim, we are putting you in the hot seat first.
Kim, how are you?
While I appreciate both hands in the tip jar, I have to go with calling the police on your own arrest.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the
pretty
winner.
strong. How about you, fabulous producer John Daly?
Fabulous producer
What is your favorite?
I do like a raccoon bandit. Reminds me of Ranger Rick, the magazine I got when I was little.
Yes. Very strong reference.
Yeah, very strong.
Yeah.
But I think I have to agree with Kim. I have to go with the white privilege customer service sheriff call.
Yeah, that's a very, very strong pick. Albert, I ask you, first, what's ahead in the chat, please?
The one that our two guests, or well, I guess our one guest, and Kim decided is number one right now. 60% of the vote for calling the cops on the cops.
Yeah.
I do like the visual of that. He's like in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm detained currently, and I don't like what they're doing to me.
Right.
But I do. Anytime there's a samurai sword involved in any story, that's an automatic vote. That's I will always go to that direction.
Yeah. How about that?
Albert, thank you.
I like that you went for the samurai sword. I do think that it's a closer race than it might seem, because the samurai sword really does vault that story to close to the gold medal stand. Still, for me, calling the cops on the cops, I got to give it to.
It's very meta.
I like that. Very
he didn't
meta.
say please when he asked me to put my hands behind my back.
Right.
What do we say? What do we say?
That's Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.